Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the first gathering of the SpeakEasy Social Club. My name is Regina Garapi, and I am honored to be supporting this event behind the scenes tonight with Zoom. And I am here tonight because I believe in the concept of this club, and especially knowing that it is developed and led by my dear friend and colleague, Jim Herbert. And tonight I have the honor of introducing him to get us started. So Jim's success in life and work has centered around his ability to truly see, hear, and honor the humanity of everyone he meets in a way that uplifts, supports, and inspires. Jim understands people and what they need. So of course, his career has consisted of teaching and coaching others. His vast life experience combined with his devotion to his own spiritual and personal growth has made him a wise elder and mentor to many. If you know Jim, you know he is a very talented writer and conversationalist, but he also knows how to hold space, give thoughtful insight and perspective, and offer a lot of clarity through his reflection. He understands the power of words and transitions and flow, and intuitively weaves the right pieces together to tell a fantastic story, to speak to our hearts, to convey a wise truth, or make us just smile in amusement. The more people interact with Jim, the more they seek out his support, whether through his private coaching, his courses, his men's circles, his speech writing, or just helping out a friend find the right words to say, like me, many, many times. Jim is also a devoted and nurturing family man. He's husband to Christiana and father to 4-year-old Emma. Please help me welcome to our virtual stage tonight, the founder and creator of the SpeakEasy Social Club, Jim Herbert.
Well, thank you so much, Regina. As you've said to me in the past, when you're going to pick someone to introduce you, pick someone who loves you very much, and it works out very well. And that was so incredibly heartfelt, and it touched on so many things that I've really worked on in my life. So I could not possibly feel more seen right now. Thank you so much. And I could not possibly be more grateful to all of you who have made it here tonight and come and joined us tonight. It doesn't matter whether you're just here to watch, whether you're here to speak, whether you're here to support someone who is speaking, whether you're here because you're my mom and you promised me you would come so I'd have at least one person other than the speakers, whether you're curious about the community, you're here at the inception point of a dream for me. This is from the very first time Christiana and I walked into a venue of hosting storytelling back when we ran Monday Night Joy Fest. For those of you in Chicago who came to it, I knew that creating space for people to come together and share stories and grow together as conscious communicators was going to be a big part of my work going forward. Of course, I had no idea at that point that we'd have a worldwide pandemic and many of these things would have to happen in the virtual world for a couple of years. But I'm really seeing a time in the future where we can cross that line between gathering together in person and accessible to all, regardless of geography. And I have a vision for that, for in-person meetups with a simulcast. And if you know me well enough, you know that once I start to form a vision on something, the probability that it's going to happen is exceedingly high. So before we get started putting too much attention on the future, though, I want to take a minute and ground our intentions into the present. And to do that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what tonight's going to look like. First thing I want to do is I want to get to know you a little bit better. I'm going to invite a few of you who aren't presenting tonight to come into the spotlight, if you will, of Zoom and tell us what you're excited about, something that's unique and interesting about you, and why you felt called to come here tonight. After that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my vision for the club. Then we're going to hear from a couple of speakers who will share their stories. Then I'm going to talk to you about some special features I'm going to include in these meetings going forward. Some things that you might not see at a speaking club specifically, or a storytelling show, things that sort of stretch the boundaries of what you might see. And one of the things I've learned from one of my root teachers, Ron Young, is that when we stretch our mind to the possibilities, it really gets quite magical. One of the last things we're going to do is hear a story from the heart from one of our speakers tonight about living intentionally in our ever-changing world. And then last, I'm going to do a guest interview with my dear friend Emily, who's going to tell us a little bit about living with multiple sclerosis for 41 years. And we're going to do all that in 75 to 90 minutes. So let's get things rolling. I want to get people on screen, though, so it becomes conversational right away. So as I said, I want to hear a voice other than my own. I've got time for 2, maybe 3 people to come on screen and share. So you can raise your hand in the reaction window, or I'll just look and see who's out there. Tell us something unique about you and why you felt called to come here. And I think I already checked in with Laura Davis, and she was gonna get the ball rolling for me. Laura, can you come up on screen with me and say hello to the group?
Hey everybody, I'm Laura Davis. I've known Jim for about a decade, since we were sitting in a cafe rehearsing the first stories we were ever going to tell on stage. And we've both done it a lot since then. One interesting fact about me is that also about a decade ago, I decided to write a book. I was going to go on 100 dates and write a book about the experience. And I did. I went to a bunch of coffee shops and restaurants and bakeries and met a lot of different people over the course of about 2 years. And that 100th date, well, I married him, and we've been together. He would know better than me, and he's not here. I'm gonna say 8 years. 8 years married. It's probably like 6 or 7. We also have 2 children that take up all of my time and energy and mental brain space. So that's why I don't remember exactly how long we've been married. But storytelling has just been even more of a part of my life with the kids. Not just stories and books, but memories that we're making and experiences that we're having. And it's great to share that with them. I'm excited for them to get up on stage one day and what sort of stories they're going to tell about their experiences with us growing up.
Awesome. Thanks for being here tonight, Laura. I really appreciate you. It's great to reconnect. It's been a little while. Let's get somebody else on screen. Let's have somebody else come up and tell us something unique about you. And I'm in a pretty intimate circle here. I know all these people, even though nobody's raising their hands. I'm going to call on Joshua, JB. Will you come up on screen for me? I know you like to speak. Tell us a little something interesting about you and what called you to come here tonight?
Something's interesting about me. Hi, everybody. I prefer to go by JB. That's why I think I changed the name. So JB makes me feel it's more home, it's more familiar. Something unique about me, I can just say my perspective. Where I come from, where I've been, gives me a different perspective how I look on life. I'm originally from the projects of Chicago, moved into the south side of Chicago, and then went to school at the University of Iowa. 3 major environments. And in that, I see a lot of different ways how I interact with people and how people worlds and circumstances and things are. And I've learned a lot from being in all of those spaces. One thing that brought me here today was, as I mentioned earlier, when I emailed you that you gave a speech at the last Toastmasters, and I was inspired. One of the things I do is I work in mental health, and a lot of the times as I work in mental health and I explain about something I'm passionate about, sometimes I might not be the best speaker or worry so much about what I might not know, as we talked about being a perfectionist and being as anxious and having anxiety. But when you just said, if you have something to say, or you have a word, or you have a speech, and everybody has their own story and it needs to be heard, that inspired me that I do have something to say and I do have something to talk about. And in this space, I hope to be able to share those things as well as learn things from the many different people in these spaces who I know have many experiences. So.
Right on. Thank you so much, JB. I really appreciate you being here, and I appreciate coming up on screen to chat with me. All right, so we got Trish raising her hand over here. So we'll do Trish. That'll be the last one. Trish, thanks for raising your hand. Thanks for coming tonight. Tell us something about you and what called you to be here. You're still muted, Trish, so let's get you unmuted. All is well. We get it figured out.
There we go. Okay, so the first thing that's something that is unique about me is a lot of people visit Sedona, Arizona. Not a lot of people live there, and I do. So that's a little bit unique. I am a trainer of leadership skills. So 3 days a week, I'm talking in front of people now obviously online, and have been doing so for a number of years. But I haven't ever done the storytelling until 2019 when I was on the stage of Moth for the very first time. And
Yes.
then 2020 hit, and I sort of put it on the back burner. So when I saw this, I was like, this is a great time for me to
Mhm.
begin to learn and delve into storytelling.
Awesome. That is a perfect reason to be here. And I too love the Moth. I am a many-time Moth veteran and have not done it since the pandemic either, but I look forward to doing it again in the future. So thanks for being here. Thanks for coming on stage. So I want to tell you a little bit more about the club and my vision. As I said in some of the pre-event promotional material, this is going to start as a once-a-month online gathering for what I call life adventurers, writers, mindfulness seekers, conscious creators from all walks of life, just to gather together and grow their communication skills in general, at a time in human history where communicating with others can present some pretty unique and specific challenges. As most of you know, I've spent years studying the power of our words and our thoughts, and I wholeheartedly believe that the reality we live in is a direct result of the vibration we put into the universe with our actions and our intentions. I've had the opportunity to mentor under some remarkable people in Toastmasters clubs, in the Infinite Possibilities community, in storytelling workshops, writing programs, and so many other arenas. As I often say in my group programs, I am just a synthesis of a long lineage of extraordinary teachers and all of their teachers as well. So my goal with this SpeakEasy Club is to create a space for people to gather together to be seen and heard, regardless of where they're at in their own life journey. If you've never spoken in front of strangers before, come out and stick a toe in the water if you want to. And if that doesn't feel comfortable to you, then just sit back and listen. If you're a seasoned speaking pro or a storyteller who loves to be on stage, then come out and hone your craft further. All professionals go to the cage every day, if you will. And this is informal. So if your cat jumps on your head while you're speaking, that's great. If your child throws a tantrum in the background while you're speaking, so be it. That's out of our control. We're not giving a meeting here. We're practicing together. So one of the things I'm definitely looking to do here is debunk the myth that we need to have a super polished, perfect piece of material to share before you start sharing it. That's what the big lie is. The world needs your message right now, so don't wait. And I'm really excited about emphasizing that going forward. At the end of tonight's call, I'll share a little bit more with you about how to be a part of this thing going forward. There is more than no more than enough energetic space here for everyone. And you can either just come along and listen for the community and the connection, or you can dive in on the speaker and presenter's path. There will be an opportunity to do group and individual communication skills training at some point for those who are interested, but that's a little further down the road. So we've only just begun, basically, as Karen Carpenter once says. So before we get to the first speaker tonight, though, I want to talk a little bit about the concept of feedback, because this is a way we can all help each other. We have this amazing chat window and we can use that. And then depending upon how things are going, I may ask somebody's, particularly maybe one of my fellow Toastmasters from the past, to come up and give a quick 30-second share after somebody talks. This is not going to be a speech evaluation situation, more than it's just going to be an opportunity for the person who just took some time and energy to put their message out there to hear something from someone about how that inspired them. So all feedback should kindly address one of the three following questions. What did you love the most about the presentation? What would you like to hear more about? Or what suggestion do you have that could make the presentation more engaging? And like I said, you can use the chat box and say something nice to the speaker, or you can, hang out and raise your hand and say, yeah, I'd like to come on screen and do that. So that leads us to our first speaker of the evening, who's going to be my friend James Sheehan. So James, I just met recently, like within the last month, but we really connected at one of the Toastmasters meetings I went to recently. And we've had a couple conversations since. And when I told him what I was going to be doing here, he was all in right away. He said, yes, I want to do that. So James is going to demonstrate tonight what would be considered sort of an introductory speech. I've got a manual that I've written for this program. So he's going to do a speech from the category I call a little known fact, which is the speaker's chance to tell the community something unique and interesting about them for 5 or 6 minutes. And James's speech is titled Facing Your Fears. So please help me welcome James. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you, Jim. Before I begin, that's exactly what I wanted to do, Jim. I wanted to thank you and just thank everybody for being here tonight, and allowing me to share my story and something that personally I am extremely passionate about, which is facing your fears. So I want you all to take just a quick second in your mind to think of something that just causes complete panic, fear, anxiety in your heart and in your mind. So for some of you, you might be thinking maybe a spider crawling in your bed, or a burglar breaking in your house with a weapon, or maybe just the overall fear of failure. So personally for me, it's a little ironic right now because my deepest fear was what I'm doing right now, speaking in front of a large audience of people. But I have to tell you, it wasn't always that way. So a few years back in 2017, I was a sophomore at Eastern Illinois University. And I had never really had an issue growing up speaking in front of others. But there was one occurrence that really sort of flipped my life upside down. I was always seen to many people as maybe a very outgoing, confident person. Like, oh, there's James. He's got, he's not introverted. He's not shy, anything like that. And I played college football at Eastern Illinois, and I was only a 18, 19-year-old at the time, and I didn't really know how to manage my time well. So basically, I pushed off a project in front of an entire classroom, maybe like a lecture hall of 50 or 60 people, where I had to go up in front of everybody and do just a simple PowerPoint presentation. So I remember I remember preparing my slides maybe 10 minutes before the class even started. And I remember walking in the classroom, and as the teacher called groups up, it finally got to my group, and my hands were sweating, my voice was quivering, I was shaking with fear and panic. So I go in front of the classroom, right, with 3 of my colleagues, and I was the third one to speak. And all I had to do was just read a couple slides off of a PowerPoint in front of these people. See, that's the thing about fear, though. Fear can be so irrational that it simply makes no sense. And some of you watching may understand exactly what I'm talking about. So as the slides went past one by one, I could feel the tension even getting worse. It felt like chains tied around my neck, getting tighter and tighter as it was my turn to speak. So finally it gets to me, and I am unable to speak. I mean, I am embarrassed. I've never had this in my entire life. And I basically could not physically speak in front of the class. So fear, this is the funny thing about the story. Like I mentioned, fear is irrational, right? So I remember in the middle of my turn to speak, I walked behind the computer of the teacher, and I basically hid behind the computer because I think I murmured out saying that the words on the screen, I couldn't read them, even though they were probably this big, but some reason I could read them off the computer screen. So fear in general is just extremely irrational. And that story, that took a huge toll on me. For a few years after that, I would run from my fear. And I remember missing the first day of class because it was a moment where you had to speak, you had to introduce yourself and tell something fun about yourself. I would dodge job interviews. I would get very worked up about these things. So my main thing that I want to just convey with you all today, this is what I learned about this irrational fear. The key is courage. You have to find courage somewhere deep within you or from another source. You have to find courage to face your fears, because that's the only way. The more and more you run from your fear, the more that fear will just grow and hold more power over you. So over the last couple of years, what I've been doing is I've been on a mission to face this fear of public speaking more and more often. And I can tell you that it works. I would not be here right now, what I'm doing 2 years ago, if it wasn't for that story in front of that class, if it wasn't for people like Jim and Toastmasters and this wonderful group that we're getting going now. So I wanted to say thank you guys for allowing me to share. I'm very excited for this this group and this meeting. And thanks again. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for doing this, James. It's great to hear more of your story. I've got Bill Goddess out there, who you know from Toastmasters, that's reached out and said he would like to come on screen. So Regina, can we get William or Bill Goddess out of the audience and bring him? Bill, yeah, Bill, and bring him up here to share a few thoughts with James about his presentation.
Sure. Thanks, Jim. Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, great.
Perfect. I was trying to get my AirPods synced up. I think I finally got it. Okay. Thanks, James, for your speech tonight. Couple of things. Sincerity. I love the sincerity of what you conveyed to us, the message of fear. It's very difficult many times to understand your fears, whether they're irrational or not. Yours was perhaps more so out of not preparing than maybe speaking, and that probably contributed to your anxiety more, was the fact that you weren't exactly prepared. But I think you've proven, as I've seen you grow, that if you prepare and you know what you're talking about, you can face your fears. You can overcome those. And you took your first step in realizing that you had a fear, right? Because that's the way you overcome that fear, is realizing you have it and then figuring out what to do about it. So I like that aspect of you putting yourself out there, saying, I have this fear. This is what I did about it. I recognized it. And this is the results from doing it. So that's what I liked about your speech tonight and the message it conveyed.
Awesome. Thanks for coming up, Bill. I appreciate you. I agree, James. I look forward to doing this with you again down the road. So thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know Bill through Toastmasters, he won the speech evaluation contest that the club that I was a member of for many years did right before the pandemic, when we were still doing live in-person contests. So congratulations to you, Bill. All right, so we're going to move on, and we're going to get my dear friend Craig Loss up here next. So Craig and I met through Toastmasters, and then he went on to forging a great friendship with me. He's been to a couple of workshops that we've done. We get together for, coffee or lunch or, some food or a beer and stuff. And it's just a really fine, wonderful man to have in my life. So Craig speaks professionally quite a bit for his job. And so what he's going to do tonight is he's going to demonstrate a speech that I call, Let Me Tell You Something. And that's an opportunity for the speaker to give you an informational presentation from an area where they have a certain level of expertise. And Craig is currently working on a book about the psychology of the job search. So he is here tonight now to do a speech titled Escaping the Resume Black Hole. So let's welcome Craig to the stage and have him share with us. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, Jim, for putting the energy in to make this happen. And I was scrolling through the pictures here. I see a lot of old Toastmasters alums. So great to see you guys again. And I also see some people I've only met virtually. So it's great to see your face. But just want to give you a little bit of background. I currently work at the company Indeed, and I'm very close to both the job seeker experience and the employer experience. So as Jim said, I am working on writing some content to help people with their careers. So this is my first stab at it. I shut the lid to my laptop, excited for what was sure to come in the morning. It was my 5th successful evening of trying to find a new job. I wanted a job that would pay more, that I actually liked. I'd spent hours searching and reading job descriptions, sifting for something. I was on a tear. After becoming more efficient each night for the last 4 nights, this night I had applied to over 40 jobs. I'd put in almost 100 applications for my hard work over the last 5 days. And my resume was perfect, or at least I thought so. I heard back from a few places, but it was mostly multi-level marketing schemes or jobs that were too far away or just didn't really pay enough. 6:45 a.m. and my alarm went off. I opened up my email app and refreshed my inbox. Nothing. Well, it was still early. I needed to be more patient, I told myself. It was noon and I was starting to make lunch. All morning, my boss had reminded me why I was looking for another job. And that's why I stayed up late last night. And the night before that, and the night before that, and the night before that, applying for jobs to get the hell out of my current job. I put my leftovers in the microwave and started it up. As the microwave hummed along, I pulled up my inbox Still nothing. Were all my applications going to spam? I was a great candidate. I didn't understand why nobody wanted to hire me. I had so much experience, and my resume spelled it out in sequential order of exactly how I gained the experience. My resume was pretty much an autobiography. It was 2 pages of almost every task I'd ever done since I started my career. And it was my first class ticket to what I call the resume black hole. Beep, beep went the microwave, lunch was ready. You see, a lot of job seekers go about looking for a job in the completely wrong way. You might be one of them. I was. I didn't know getting a job was a full-time job. Nobody had taught me how to find a job, and nobody told me that I could get a job that I loved, that challenged me, with a company that respected me, who I was motivated to do great work for. A company and a manager that found tons of value in my personality and my skill set. Did anyone ever teach you how to find a job you really loved? Forget about getting a job. I couldn't even get a response. The resume black hole had entwined me in its gravity, and I didn't know how to escape. So if you've been in the resume black hole before, you know how it feels. And maybe you're there now. It's downright discouraging, embarrassing, confusing, frustrating, and ultimately, it's a big waste of time. The good news is there is a way out. There's a better way to find your dream job. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to give you a mindset shift and some resume tips that help me take control of my career and get out of the resume black hole. Let's talk about the mindset shift first. Go online right now. Go to Carvana.com. Do you know what that is? It's an online auto dealership that'll deliver a car to your driveway. No hassle, no haggle, no greasy car salesman, and they offer a 10-day money-back guarantee if you don't love the vehicle. Now, that was not a paid promotion. I'm in sales, and sometimes I just can't help myself. Let's get back to the point here. Carvana.com. If you go there right now, there's about 52,188 cars available for sale that you could buy with the click of your mouse. How in the hell am I going to buy a car with those kinds of numbers? We need to pare our search down. We need to get specific. Make, Chevy. Model, Corvette. Exterior, red. Year, let's go 09 to 2012. 10 choices. All right, now we're getting somewhere. Interior, black. 7 choices. With 3 clear winners, there's even one I could get delivered by Saturday. Welcome to the mindset shift for finding a better job, the red Corvette. How can you apply this to job seeking? Get very specific with what your future job parameters look like. What is the role? What type of company do you want to work for? Is it private and small or huge and public? What shift in hours are you willing to work? What's the overall pay and the ultimate earning potential? Would you ever have an opportunity to move vertically or laterally? The more specific you get with what your dream job looks like, the more likely you are to find it. So stop searching for a job and start searching for the job. Now, once you've found your red Corvette, let's talk about how you can stand out as a candidate. The resume. So what is a good resume? A good resume is not a chronicling of your job history. It's not just a list of your accomplishments and silver stars and kudos. A good resume is a concise, detailed, and role-specific description of the skills that you have that an employer will find valuable. When you buy your red Corvette, you're purchasing the car, not the build sheet. You're not buying a list of the steps the car went through on the production line. An employer isn't buying a list of things you've done at past jobs. I'm not saying what you've done in the past isn't valuable. I'm just arguing that the way most people present themselves on a resume does not convey their full potential value to the employer. Let's talk about 3 basic rules that will help you stand out. Do you know what the acronym TLDR means? It means too long, didn't read. I thought my 2-page resume was impressive. It's not. The hiring manager thinks it's annoying, possibly repulsive. It was full of fluff, things like Microsoft Word and Excel and PowerPoint. Rule number 1, cut the fat. Edit, audit, refine, condense, whittle, shed. Be ruthless. Every word must earn its way on the page. Do not put obvious skills on your resume. Cut it down to one page. And once you think it's perfect, wait a day or two and go at it again. Rule number 1, cut the fat. Rule number 2, cheat codes. The job description of the job you want is a cheat code. Look at the primary qualifications of the job and think about the experience at past employers that line up with those qualifications. Remember the rule number 1, cut the fat. Each bullet point on your resume should tie directly into one of the job qualifications. Nothing else matters. Use your experience to tell your story and how you've already learned how to solve the problems your new employer needs solved. Make it easy for the hiring manager to see how you are a great match for what the role needs. And it's okay if you don't match all of the requirements. Oftentimes, a unicorn candidate doesn't really exist. So make your resume tell a story that makes you stand out and makes you memorable. Now, for the most important resume rule, which is the last rule, rule number 7, use a headline. On average, a hiring manager will give your resume 7 seconds. 7 seconds. That's a little scary, but it doesn't have to be. Most people don't know this, so use it to your advantage. What experience do you have that is most valuable for that role and that employer? Make that the focus of your resume. It's a mini commercial, a 7-second commercial that sells your experience and neatly ties up your value to that employer. It's inviting the hiring manager to want to continue, to see how else you can help the company, or at least not put you in the no pile, the black hole. So how do you use those 7 seconds to your advantage? I suggest creating a headline which encapsulates who you are and what you bring to the table. A headline like a newspaper or an incendiary social media post. Here's the headline of my resume. Client success focused business development professional. 12 plus years of experience in new and existing account growth via relationship-based systems and ideas. 6+ years of experience in revenue production and relationship building across a spectrum of departments in a mix of independent and Fortune 500 companies. Extensive public speaking experience and ability to communicate effectively with a wide range of individuals and departments. That's it, 62 words. Learn how to make an impact in 7 seconds is way harder than 2 pages. I believe this headline alone has advanced my career and helped me earn tens of thousands of more dollars over the last few years. So if you're in the resume black hole right now, I hope you're excited to get out with a mindset shift in a few simple rules. Just remember the red Corvette. Rule number 1, cut the fat. Rule number 2, cheat codes. And of course, rule number 7, use a headline. Thanks, and let me know when you make it out of the resume black hole.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Craig. You can see Craig's speaking experience and his many years in Toastmasters. He was the president of our club right after I was for a couple of years. So thank you for being here and just really powerful. So your old friend Amber is here and she's going to come up. Amber is going to come up and help us for about 1 minute, tell you something about your speech. So Amber Zelazny, we're going to get you up on the screen and then we're going to hear from you about Craig's speech. Thanks so much.
Hi, Craig. Surprise. Good to see you after all.
Good to see you too.
Yeah. There are so many things about your presentation that I liked and that resonated with me. First, your delivery, very, very reminiscent to me of a radio show. The way that you were stressing certain words, the way that you were, the description and what you were sharing as well. As I was listening, I could imagine that even if my eyes were closed, I could still imagine you typing as you're looking on Carvana for cars. So if you are going to think of turning this into an audiobook, you have a good voice for that.
Thank you.
Over the past couple of years within my job, I have been trained as a delivery coach to help others with their presentations. And the individual that provides the training for all of us, he talks about having quotable quotes and tweetable tweets, telling us that as you create your presentations, you should be sure to have these short phrases that people will remember, that they might want to share to their community. And I felt you had a lot of those in your speech, which was great. The resume black hole, the unicorn candidate, cut the fat, using cheat codes. So these just short phrases that can help people remember what was shared with them. And since they tie directly to what the topic is, it's easy to connect that short quote to the topic. Another thing that I really liked in your presentation was the use of the data to back up what you're going to say to the audience. It's not just hypotheses that you're putting together or just speaking just from personal experience, but you have built credibility in what you're saying because you are bringing into the conversation research that backs up what you're saying. So it's kind of as if the audience is being told, hey, you can choose not to follow my advice, but the data are showing that if you do follow this advice, the chance of success is much higher. So, I think as someone who has to look at resumes every once in a while, some of the advice that you are giving, I think, oh, you can ask someone that looks at resumes that could take some of this advice. Again, going to the idea of the unicorn candidate, even as someone that's reviewing resumes, we need to remember, yeah, there's not sometimes the perfect person out there for a role that we're trying to fill. So we shouldn't look at resumes expecting that we're going to find that diamond in the rough, because they might just not be there. But maybe it's finding that diamond that you have to polish to make into the right employee for you. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and great to hear your voice again.
Thank you, Amber.
Thanks for coming up, Amber. I really appreciate you. So I'm going to move next into a little description of some of the special features we're going to include in these meetings going forward. At a storytelling show or a Toastmasters meeting, for example, you're going to hear a variety of speakers with a wide range of skill sets. And there will be a certain level of sameness to each presentation as well. My initial goal here is to open the forum up to just content creators of all type, whether they're writers, whether they're storytellers, whatever, and let them speak from their heart. And some of the ways that we can do that are through some additional segments that I plan on offering, one or two of at each meeting. One of those is a member spotlight where we interview someone. Another is a practice called Off the Cuff, where we do an improv speaking segment, either just for a couple of minutes or maybe devote 30 minutes of the meeting to it. Another is Author's Corner, where somebody can read from a book or a writing they have in progress. Also maybe a young adult spotlight, where we get a younger speaker to come on stage, someone under 21. And then the last one I was thinking of was something that I call Listening to the Universe, and that would be a poetry reading. So with that in mind, we're going to move on to our next speaker, Patty Lipstrew, who is going to show us what it would look like to do one of those special features. And she's going to do something from the Listening to the Universe category that I just mentioned, and she's going to read a poem. So Patty and I met through the Infinite Possibilities community, and she really follows Mike Dooley's work super close. And after one particular training session that he did, she felt called to write a poem that she calls To Any Degree That You Can. So please help me welcome Patty up tonight to read her poem called To Any Degree That You Can.
Thanks for everybody that showed up tonight. I appreciate having the opportunity to read this, and thanks to Mike Dooley for inspiring me. To any degree that you can. As I bask in the glow of all that is this, living from a state of ecstasy, joy, and bliss, my agreement to surrender allows all to pour in. This is the art of life, and I desire to begin creating from my preferences, from my unique ambitions, all my heart's desires, with only a few conditions. Become full, become centered, allow love to pour in. Don't put off your happiness until the manifestations begin. Start today, gently move. Take baby steps and dwell from this point forward, knowing that all is supremely well. Live your dreams right now. You're an effortless streaming manifester who always knows how to serve, love and laugh, transcend. As you create this blissful bond. This is why we all are here. It greases the wheels of life and is the only true constant. Let's be clear. This is what the yogis all speak about. Our surrender to bliss is the very best route. It's our natural state, our default setting. Now get out of the way and into the letting as the floodgates start trembling and your dreams pour in. This blissful life you're creating starts the moment you begin. You live your dreams right now. Happiness and joy from surrendering to bliss is how living turns into ecstasy right now.
Thank you, Patty. I appreciate you. I love that poem the first time I heard it, and you read it so well. So we're going to have Carolyn Clark come up. Carolyn was a guest presenter in one of my containers last time around, and she met Patty in that container. And she has stepped up and said she would like to just give a quick 30, 60 seconds of feedback / acknowledgement of Patty's reading. So Carolyn, thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Hello, everyone. Patty, your poem really spoke to me. As a fellow Infinite Possibilities trainer, lover of Mike Dooley, everything to do with, creating our own unique reality. My goodness, I really loved how your poem really encapsulated each and every one of the principles of what Infinite Possibilities represents. So lovely, heartfelt. I really felt every bit of it. My heart lifted.
Awesome. Thanks, Carolyn. I appreciate you coming up and sharing. I think we all felt the same way. This is just an example of how I want people to do a lot of different things in this container, and that was a great way to show that. So we're going to move in and do one more of the special features. And for that, my friend Wendy Doherty, who is an author and lives in my home state of Michigan, is going to do a little reading. She's currently doing the final edits on a fiction novel she's been working on for a while. And so she's going to show us an example of the Author's Corner presentation by reading about a 600-word segment of the beginning of her novel titled A Dismal Day. So please help me welcome Wendy Doherty up to share her story.
Thank you. Good evening. Chapter 1, A Dismal Day. She was lying on the shoulder of Highway 1 near Makapu'u Point. Her unmarked car had just been hit. As her vehicle started its descent down Ravine Road, her door flew open and she rolled onto the pavement. She thought she might be dreaming, but the raindrops hitting her face were wet and real. How could this be happening? As she lay waiting for help, she saw Diamond Head in the distance. This was an atypical workday in the life of Wendy Hart, U.S. Marshal. Wendy had been closely following a fleeing fugitive. She, along with officers from other departments, had been closing in on the suspect when out of nowhere, a vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed slammed into her. She had not seen it coming. The impact was horrendous. The Crown Victoria she had been driving was reduced to a pile of twisted metal. The accident had seemed to happen in slow motion. Wendy had landed in such a way that her left hip had taken the brunt of the impact. There were facial cuts and lacerations due to broken glass. The scalp wounds bled profusely. Law enforcement personnel swarmed to the scene. The first to arrive was Nat Snyder, a seasoned detective with the Honolulu Police Department. He too had been involved in the car chase. From a distance, Nat had observed the other driver as he made a hasty exit from the vehicle dressed in NASCAR gear. The other driver fled on foot, but Nat had an officer down. Without hesitation, he called for backup, including paramedics and an ambulance. Despite his years on the force, Nat was taken aback by the amount of blood on the pavement. As he approached her, he was not prepared for what he saw. Nat gingerly turned Wendy over. Her face was dirty and bloody. She groaned in pain. "Don't move, don't talk, just be still," Nat said gently. Nat took out his handkerchief and tried to soak up some of the blood that tinged her blonde tresses. While waiting for help to arrive, he flashed back to an earlier time when their paths had crossed. They both had attended a fundraising event, the Black and White Ball Forever Young, for Queens Medical Center in Honolulu. Queens was a respected level 1 trauma center. Nat attended the ball with coworkers from the Honolulu Police Department. It was never a question of would they help Queens, but rather who would get to go. Entertainment for the ball featured the ever popular musical troupe, the Gold Review. To help defray costs, Wendy donated her time and talent to serve as musical director. Their meeting was serendipitous. Their eyes locked and both smiled. It was clear the two were smitten instantly. Their energy was palpable. Wendy was trying to read the music score in front of her. She had forgotten her reading glasses and was squinting. Nat noticed her distress and sent his readers over along with a glass of champagne, a thornless red rose pulled from a centerpiece, and a note written on a napkin, which read, "Your beauty heightens my senses, a rose to touch and feel. Reading glasses to see more clearly, champagne to toast the years." The sound of the ambulance's siren brought Nat back to the present. He had half a mind to kick their sorry ass for taking so long. However, Nat trained himself to keep his emotions in check. It was expected in his line of work. The paramedics arrived and began their evaluation. Since the risk of back injury was high, they hauled out the backboard and applied a cervical collar to Wendy's neck. She was struggling to maintain a level of consciousness. They put her on oxygen, which made communicating more difficult. Wendy had a message to convey. It was personal and something Nat needed to hear.
Thank you, Wendy. So I've had the privilege of actually seeing this chapter evolve through some various rewrites. And this one is the first time I've heard this rewrite, and it's exactly the nice combination between what the editor did to the work and you're infusing your first person back into it. So great job. We're going to have Meg, who was part of our first Mindsmith Academy, come up and give you a little bit of feedback about your reading. So thanks for coming up, Meg.
Sure. Hi, Wendy. Hi, everyone. Wow. I can't watch mysteries because I get too involved. I get too scared. But hearing you read it was really cool. What I loved was the start. It took us right to the moment and beyond the impact, but like what happened after that. The description, the Crown Victoria, the high rate of speed, the dialogue of her I'm going to call him a rescuer. I can't remember his name right now. Some past history between the two of them, which adds a level of complexity and interest. And the suspense, like what's going to happen next? What was she about to say? So very much drawing us in. There was one phrase that made me think of I don't know, one of those romance novels that like takes you back in time, blonde tresses. And I don't know if people use those words. I know what they mean. But I don't know if there's another way to say that would bring it more current, or even, I don't even know what the time frame is for the setting. Since there's a Crown Victoria, and since it's on an island in Hawaii, maybe they drive older cars. Maybe they still make Crown Victorias. I don't know. But just to make sure that the time that it's set in matches some of those descriptors would be one thing I would think could be helpful. But super interesting. I look forward to hearing more.
Thank you.
Thanks, Meg, and thanks, Wendy. So we're going to move on to our last formal speaker of the night, if you will. And for that, I'm going to be having my friend Elena McMurtry come up. So Elena is going to be sharing from the category of speeches that I call speaking from the heart. And all great motivational speeches and stories draw on personal experiences in order to make that powerful connection with the audience. So this particular project is designed to practice the skill of inspiring others with a message from your own world that's deeply impactful. So tonight, Elena is going to give a powerful story about an event in her life that made her realize the difference between how our intentions and our impact can be different sometimes based on the actions that we choose. So please let me help me welcome Elena up to do her speech titled I Dissent. I Dissent. Elena McMurtry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm a mama bear. I just want to put that out there. If you guys have ever seen mama bears protect their cubs, that's me. It's probably every one of us, right? As a parent, we want to make sure that our children are safe. So what I want to tell you happened to my number 2 son. I have 4 sons. And Logan is his name. And when Logan was about 9 years old, it was in the summertime, and he got a new bicycle. His birthday's in June. So it was fairly recently, or fairly soon after his birthday, that he got this bicycle. And the time frame that this happened, I was traveling back and forth from my home in Chicago area to Southern California every week. And it was the weekend and I was tired, right? Those of you that ever traveled every week, you know, the weekend when you want to rest, you got to wash clothes, you got to cook dinner for the family, you got to prepare everybody's clothes and all that stuff and get ready to travel back out again. So I was tired. He asked me if he can go to the park on his new bike. It's about 2.5 blocks from my house. And the way that it works is like right down the street, you cross the street. I taught him how to look both ways and cross the street. And then he rode across a bridge, you know, that covered like a small pond into the park. And so our rule at our house is once you turn 9, you can go to the park by yourself. And he asked me, I said yes. And also because his older brother was there somewhere. So I'm tired. I decide I want to take a hot bath. So I go and I start to run some bath water. I take my clothes off, put my robe on, and it's been about 20 minutes since Logan went riding his bike to the park. I walked over to my dresser for something, and I don't remember what it was, but I looked out the window and I see Logan running down the cul-de-sac. So my first question, of course, and I'm pretty sure yours would be the same thing. Where's your bike? What are you doing? Where's your bike? So he's running and yelling. I don't know what he's talking about. So I take the time to turn off the water. I walk down the stairs. I open the door. He's running and he was like, Mommy, Mommy. I'm like, what? What's going on? Where's your bike? He said, there's a man chasing me. I'm sorry, what? There's a man chasing me. So I'm looking, you know, both ways, and I come in, close the door. What do you mean? Tell me, start from the beginning. He was like, okay, there's this little boy that goes to my school, and he came up to me. I was talking to somebody else, and he called me the N-word. Oh my gosh. And he was like, I got mad. I didn't like that word. I got mad at him, and I started to yell at him because he called me that bad word. Okay, well, that's another conversation we need to have, but I get it. Now, those are fighting words, right? So the little boy yelled. He had a safe word that he yelled. His father was also at the park. So his father comes running over there. What's wrong? He's being mean to me, he tells about Logan, who of course is upset because of the word that he used for him. So the man started to yell at Logan. This is all from the 9-year-old's perspective. He said something about the way you people act. Woo-sa. Yes, I'm listening to this. So I turn the bath water. I'm like, let's go. So I jump in the car, remember that I have on a robe, go back upstairs, look for my sweatsuit, possibly my Timberland boots, because I am a mama bear, right? I know how we're supposed to respond. I know how we're supposed to go and have a conversation and be professional, or maybe not professional, but at least civil, right? Yeah, I want none of that. I want to dissent from that. My intention is not at all to be that way. I am pissed. Can I say pissed?
Yes.
Have you ever heard one of those stories where a mom, there's a car accident or something, there's a child trapped under a car and there's superhuman strength and they pick the car up, right? So in my mind, I'm going to whoop this dude's ass just like that. It's going down. So I go back inside, I change clothes, I come back, I get into the car, we drive to the park, which of course is very, very short distance on a bike or walking, but much further distance when you're driving. I gotta drive around the whole neighborhood or whatever. So I finally get there. Logan jumps out, I jump out. He points them out, but I didn't need help, right, with who it was, because when I looked at them, mind you, I'm pissed, I'm ready to whatever it takes. I'm tired of the microaggressions. I'm tired of the innuendos. I'm tired of the understood you're not good enough. So I'm angry. I think all of that sort of bubbled up. So my intention, of course, as I mentioned, was to dissent from what I was supposed to do. My intention now is to cuss this guy out, threaten him with the authorities. Yeah, it's a different conversation. This was a few years ago, before calling the authorities was dangerous. I'm that mad. I'm really, really upset. So I walk up to him. I look at his face. Now, this little boy said a word to my son that was inappropriate, but he had to learn it from somewhere, right? So I look at the man's face and he has this smug, nasty look on his face, like, I know how you people respond, so I'm ready, right? He's ready for me to lose my shit exactly the way I want to lose my shit. You with me? So I see that on his face. And in that moment, I'm so thankful that I had the ability to recognize that what I wanted to do would be playing right into his hands, playing right into what he already thinks about Black people. So thankfully, I was able to take a step back and I dissented from my dissension. I decided that I was going to intellectualize this man. And like, why would your son say that to my son? I don't understand. He had to have gotten that from somewhere. Were you the person that taught him how to say those things? Was it you? So I had this very calm conversation through probably clenched teeth, and it was very difficult. But his response, it was off-putting. He wasn't prepared for that. He was prepared for me to do what I wanted to do. Right? So his response, what I realized at that moment is that we have an intention, right? My initial intention was to be really upset and tell him about himself. And we also have the impact that those things have on other people, right? We intend to do something, but what's between the intention and the impact? And that's our behavior. And that's what we have control over. So I decided at that last moment to change up my behavior to affect the impact of what I needed to say. It worked. I stood in front of him. I reached deep inside. I lowered my internal voice. I talked to him. That master's degree came in handy. I used all the big words I could find. And he said to me, you ready for this? I have many colored friends. Oh my God, you're so not getting it. But I got my son. We had a truck at the time. I put his bike in the car. We drove home. I had a lesson for Logan that day, right? Because he was just as angry as I was. And we're just tired. Like I'm exhausted. Like, you gotta be kidding me. But sometimes in order to get someone to understand, right, the impact that you want, you have to change your behavior. And it was a wonderful example to my child that he has the ability to make those decisions with his behavior as well. And so that's something I never forgot. That's a story that I tell a lot in my corporate training classes, to talk about the differences between what we intend, right? And how what we do impacts people. And I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, we absolutely did. So thank you, of course. I always love being with you. I always love listening to you speak. And I am going to give you the feedback this time around. So that's a little thing that I'm going to probably do with the last speaker as we go forward with this. And it's I'm just so honored to be able to do this. Elena, you're a magnificent presenter. And the thing I like the most about you is the energy that you bring to anything you do. But in particular, the purpose of the speech was to connect deeply with your audience by sharing a personal story. And what could be more personal than talking about being a mama bear? And what could be more personal than the issues that you addressed in this speech? So it was amazing on every level. The one thing I think that I could offer you for feedback in terms of what you could do to make it even more impactful, and this is something that I trip into a lot in my speaking, is I speak too fast. So I think if I could give you one thing to focus on in the story going forward is, just slow down. You're enthusiastic. I know you're trying to get it in on time, and I'm grateful to you for that. And there'd be a little bit more impact with some space in between. So thank you. Yeah. You're awesome. You're amazing. So we're going to move into our last segment of the program tonight and our last speaker, and it's going to be a demonstration of the member spotlight interview. So we're going to get Emily Greenberg up here with me now, and we're just going to talk for, a few minutes, and you're going to get to know Emily. Some of you know her already. But the reason that I chose Emily for this particular segment tonight is because she has been with me on this path probably as long as anybody in a role where I'm teaching. And that goes back to, I think, about 20-ish years ago, right, Emily? And if I remember correctly, shortly after I first met you, you gave me some cookies. Can you tell the people here what the deal is with the cookies and why you do that?
So at the holidays, I love to make cookies and give them to my favorite people, or people who have always been extremely kind throughout the year, whether they're teaching yoga on a weekly basis, and I get to go and enjoy yoga on a weekly basis, sometimes twice a week in the past. Mm-hmm. But so it brings me joy to give cookies during the holidays, and Jim got the wrong idea that I like to do it because it's because of my birthday and how much I love my birthday, and he thought that's why I gave cookies out, but really it's just that it brings me joy to give cookies to the people that I really like.
Right. So one of Emily's larger pieces of her life story is that she has been living with multiple sclerosis for 4 decades now. So tell us just for a minute or so about how you were diagnosed and when, the mini version of your diagnosis story.
So thank you, Jim, and also thank you for letting me jump in and be your member spotlight. I mean, how exciting is this for me? So so when I was 15 years old, way back when, 1981, quick do the math, how old is Emily now? I was diagnosed with MS, and let's see, first of all, I was the youngest person in the United States to be diagnosed with MS. Woohoo. Big excitement. I'm famous in the medical journals. This is the reason why Jim presented me for this spotlight, because he wants to show you all that we can't always be perfect. So I'm a good presentation for that. So I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
And that's really important to show us, Emily. And I love that you do it gracefully, because where most people perceive MS to be a disease that specifically affects the physical body and motion, in your case, the the manifestation is mostly cognitive. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
And so even though when I was diagnosed 41 years ago, and it was all physical, I had numbness down the whole left side of my body. And when I went into the full exacerbation, my body was paralyzed.
Yeah.
So, but the way it's affected me as I've continued with MS is it's affected me cognitively.
Yeah. So at some point, I convinced you to start thinking about going back to speaking about your life with MS. So you came to a Toastmasters meeting with me, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to get back on stage in those early days of speaking again.
It was hard. It was really hard. I'm going to go back to James's speech. It was one of my biggest fears. Speaking is a huge fear for many people, and it was definitely one of my biggest fears. And I remember that first time I did table topics and basically just looked at everybody and was like, I got nothing. I mean, that's how awful and debilitating that fear was. So.
But you've since gone on and practiced your craft, and you have been speaking at MS events and in other arenas for a number of years now. So I think that I remember we've worked a lot together on helping Emily craft her speeches. But I remember a particular moment, maybe a couple of years back, when you set a vision for yourself about speaking at a particular event. Tell us what that event is.
Well, that event took place on Monday, actually. It was the Conewile Golf Outing. It is a huge fundraiser for MS. And in my opinion, it is the premier event on the MS calendar. And I was asked to speak for the yoga group and tell my story. And it was pretty amazing that I got to do it. The guy who runs the event, who I respect immensely, said he was off to the side and he got to hear me speak, and I did a great job. And I said, well, when you're ready to have the speaker for the dinner, please keep me in mind.
So Emily and I have talked at length about, her visualization of being the keynote speaker at this big event. And, she's manifested in a portion of her desire to speak at the MS Conewile event. And as we know, those of us who work in the power of thought, there is some need for a little bit of specificity when we set our intentions and manifest in something of our dreams. But the last thing I want to do is I want to talk to you about the location of the event this year. So this event is held every year in Highland Park, Illinois, and you'd have to be living under a rock right now to not know that something pretty significant happened in Highland Park, Illinois. So you had the opportunity 1 week to the day after the mass shooting in Highland Park, Illinois, to go in and actually address a group of people where you knew that you had to acknowledge that, but you didn't want to dwell on it. So how did that work out for you? What was that like, speaking in that situation?
Well, it was really scary because I was going to be, it could have been so misinterpreted, and it was not. I had some people tell me that I was telling people how to respond, how their emotions should be and how they should respond to it. And my intention was to create hope and healing and through words, and it was so great because my intention was completely realized. People understood exactly what I was saying, and it was a huge success. So that was very exciting.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to having you be a part of this club going forward and having you a chance to get up on stage and actually share some of your prepared stories. But I'm so happy and so grateful to you for being a part of sharing this particular piece of your story on this particular night. So I'm going to take a second here to get into what I often call disembodied head mode here. And I've got a little screen share that I'm going to be using tonight to help me talk a little bit more about the club going forward. So I just need to do one little technical thing here and I should be ready to go. So I'm going to talk for about 6 to 8 minutes about the SpeakEasy Social Club and share a little bit more about what it's going to look like going forward. So I'm almost ready. So we should have me in disembodied head mode now. And here we go. So first off, thanks everybody for being here tonight. And thanks to all the speakers in particular. Thanks to Regina for, she basically was the one that suggested that and volunteered to be my Zoom producer tonight. So I didn't have to worry about any pinning of videos or anything like that. So just everything came together nearly better than I ever could have imagined. So the way I see the world, in my mind, everything in life comes back in some way to our ability to communicate with others. You don't need to be looking to become a professional speaker or life coach or teacher, but you can be. It doesn't matter whether you want to publish a book or whether you even like to write it all, but maybe you do. No matter what path you walk in life, you have a story and you are a messenger. The vocation that you choose and your ability to thrive in that vocation is affected by your ability to communicate. Your relationships, both the intimate ones in your inner circle and the peripheral ones that you have out in the matrix of life, as I often call it, are influenced by the way that you communicate. The kind of energy you attract in and the reality that you live in is a product of the energy that you put out there. And the energy that you put out there is measured by the way that you communicate with your words, your thoughts, your intentions, and your actions. So the way I see it, we should all use every resource we have available to us to practice and refine the way we speak and communicate, because we are the direct beneficiaries of those resource investments. Our life literally becomes richer when we take the time to get better at connecting with others. So who should join the SpeakEasy Social Club? Well, in my mind, everybody should. But to be more specific, people who have to do presentations as part of their jobs, people who work with the public in any capacity, people who spend a lot of time on Zoom, people who would like to get better and be more comfortable with making small talk at social settings, people who love storytelling, people who like to listen and sit back like my mom's doing, people who want to get more comfortable being on stage in any capacity, music makers, poetry writers, as we saw tonight, aspiring course creators. The possibilities are quite literally infinite. And as I said earlier, we're just getting started. So what does it look like to be a part of the SpeakEasy Social Club? Well, my original thought was there'd be like 2 levels of membership. One would be a social membership for people who like to come and watch the show, but really didn't have any interest in getting up and talking in front of others. I figured then there would be like a low cost option for that. So the people in that category could find a spot that was comfortable for them. And then we would go from there. But the more I thought about it, I realized that if we're going to be a place that's inclusive and a place that wants everybody to show up regardless of their situation, then we need to model that in our program. So our meetups should be free. They should be available to people regardless of what their situation is. So what I decided is that anybody can come to any of these gatherings whenever they want to for free. And if they feel so and they're inclined to do so and they want to invest in the future of this program and this concept, that they don't want to be a part of the speaking track, then they can just make an optional donation. And then for those who are interested in actively practicing their craft as communicators and speaking on a regular basis, I could create a cost-effective way to give presenters and content creators in general a way to share their creations by using what I call the Speaker's Path Membership Starters Kit here. So if you're interested in getting fully involved with the program and having access to a network of other content creators, speech makers, storytellers via a private non-Facebook hosted network, then this is a good option for you. What I've done here is I've borrowed the best of my Toastmasters experience, my writing workshops, my storytelling classes, and I've created a 6 presentation goal list, if you will, for people to follow at any pace they choose to do so. So the first speech that you saw James do tonight was a presentation called A Little Known Fact, where you just tell us something unique about you and we get to know you a little bit. And that's option 1. The next presentation in that program would be the presentation that Craig demonstrated, which is Let Me Tell You Something, which is more of an informational presentation for speakers to learn how to share an area of expertise and teach. The third in the book of 6 is called A Funny Thing Happened. And that's a presentation that's designed for you to share a story or a speech that involves a lot of humor. Humor is a super important skill as a speaker, and we're all learning how to be more humorous in a time when it can be a little challenging to feel light. Next up is what Elena showed us tonight. It's called Speaking from the Heart. It's where we speak about passion. We speak about a personal, very personal story and what we learn from it and how we can use it as a teaching point for everybody, whether it's in a business setting or just to connect with a group of 20 to 25 people in a container like this. Then before anybody does their final presentation, if you will, in this first series, I'll give you what I call dealer's choice. And that'll be something where you have an idea and you want to work with this idea, and we talk about what that idea is, and then you create something and we make it a part of one of the upcoming meetings. And then the last thing we would do, what you would do would be something that I call the whole 9 yards, which is a longer and more composed, crafted speech, a little bit also like what Elena did tonight, where you utilize all of the different speaking skills that you're practicing in each of these. And by the way, just for fun, as an example, how we sometimes use language without fully understanding it. Does anyone here know the origin of the phrase, the whole 9 yards? Or is that just something we say when we're trying to emphasize it's a whole package? Anybody? So I actually had to look this up when I first thought of doing this months ago. And the OED places the earliest published non-idiomatic use of the phrase the whole 9 yards back to 1853. And it was in an article written in the New Albany, Indiana Ledger called The Judge's Big Shirt. And what was written is, the silly woman, I told her to just get enough fabric to make 3 shirts. And instead of making 3, she put the whole 9 yards into 1 shirt and made a big shirt. So that is literally how this idiomatic phrase that we use all the time became a part of our vocabulary going forward. So as I already mentioned, social membership is free with an option to make a donation either at the gathering or for a series of gatherings. Maybe think of it as a night out or going to a movie or something like that. And if you want to do that even as early as tonight, my PayPal and my Venmo for now are linked to my email. My personal email is on the screen. Maybe Regina can even patch it into the chat box. And there's no obligation to do that, but if you want to, you can. And then as we go forward, there's going to be more of an official sort of link in the video where you could do that along the way. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the speaking track membership. So my initial thought with the speaking track membership was to make it an annual thing so people could join and then just focus on working on the presentation assignments at whatever pace they were interested. But then I realized that thinking about a whole year right now is nearly an impossibility for me. And I suspect it might be for a lot of you too. So what I've decided to do is offer a 6-month introductory basic membership for people who sign up within 7 days of this initial meetup. And I'm going to do that for $99. So I'm thinking there's room for about 20 to 25 speakers in this first chapter of the club. And I'm calling this first chapter the Genesis chapter, partly because I love that name in general and it sounds really good. And partly because one of my best stories is about the first time I kissed my wife, Christiana, and that was after the Genesis concert in 2007. If you stick around long enough, sometime I'll tell that story. So each member will then be assigned a manual and a member number. Member number 1 has been reserved for Emily because she's been with me as a yoga student for 20 years, and she was the first ever one-on-one client to sign with me almost 10 years ago. But membership number 2 is up for grabs immediately at the end of this meeting. And it's really interesting because I work for Let Us Entertain You for 20 years. It's very part-time for me now, but I am employee number 044362, so that's 44,362. And I actually work with someone who is employee number 3. His name is Rafa, and he works in the kitchen. He's one of our sous chefs, and he was hired 51 years ago at RJ Grunt's when Rich Melman started the Let Us Entertain You enterprise. So after this particular club chapter has reached critical mass, I'll look at starting another, and we'll just go from there. So what does your membership get you? It gets you a few different things. First and foremost, it gets you these monthly meetups. It gives you access to these amazing people where you get to hear stories and connect with each other. It gets you priority access to speaking roles at the meetup. So each month, as I'm setting up a lineup, I'll give the first option to everybody that's an active member of the club. And then if I have some space still, I'll let the guests speak. So this is kind of like a Great America Speed Pass, if you will, for those of you that live in the Chicagoland area. You'll also be in a private group with other club members. Quite likely it's going to be on Mighty Networks, but I'm still working on that detail. I want to try to keep it off of Facebook just so everybody can get to it. Either way, there will definitely be a forum to interact with each other, ask questions, watch the videos from previous meetings, etc. You'll also have the option of adding on one-on-one speaking or speech mentoring. I've done this with many people over the last 10 years, and you'll have that option. Maybe you're someone who just wants to have a little nudge and get a tiny measure of support for your presentations, but you don't want to do one-on-one mentoring. So for that option, I'm going to offer for this first chapter of the club, and maybe only for this first chapter of the club, what I call a $333 mini mentoring program. And that will get you your first 6-month membership, as well as a 15 to 20-minute mini mentoring call for each of your 6 presentations. Even if those take you a couple of years to get through, it doesn't matter. You'll still have those, sort of consults with me one-on-one about your next speech. And then finally, all members will have priority access to a variety of communication skills development programs that I'm in the process of working on to go with the larger scale launch of this club in September. So one of those courses will be called Writing from the Heart. This will be a 3-module course that will help content creators develop this sort of unique skill set of accessing their audience more intimately by speaking from the heart, as opposed to letting your head get in the way. As one of my many mentors at Toastmasters said, the personal is powerful. Lots of you know who I'm talking about there. When we get more comfortable with being vulnerable, we write to speak and inspire from the heart, and we make a huge impact. And I've often been told that I'm a powerful content creator and a powerful speaker because specifically of my ability to be vulnerable. This is a skill set. There are tools you can use to learn this skill set, and I'm going to teach you those tools if you're in this program. The next program I'm working on right now is something called The Hero in the Mirror. For years, I've used Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey in my coaching, and Joseph Campbell is a brilliant writer, teacher who wrote a piece in 1940 called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. When we use this Hero's Journey template, we get a better understanding of where we're at in our own journey. So the Hero's Journey, in Campbell's words, is a hero ventures forth from a world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds to me like pretty much every story that's ever been written that I've heard in my childhood or my adulthood, like Harry Potter, Jane Eyre, Luke Skywalker, Christ Jesus, Frodo Baggins, the Buddha, Moana, you name it, they're all hero's journeys. Then the signature program I'm working on for the SpeakEasy Social Club is something I call SpeakEasy in 6 weeks. And this is under development. It's going to be a 6-module, 45-minute teaching program with workbook assignments and live Zoom community calls. It will cover a lot of powerful communication and presentation skills. And it will include things like learning how to love small talk, demystifying content creation, connecting in the virtual world, the art of storytelling, managing fear through mindfulness, and creating deeper conversations by asking quality questions. So I know I keep saying this, but we're really just getting started here. This is the first chapter in what I think is going to be an epic adventure. I will stick around after we stop the recording and answer questions for those who are interested. But please know for now, you can simply just message me with your intention to join if you're interested, and then we can arrange to get you a member number and get payment made. And the new membership portal for this will be open for 7 days until Thursday, July 21st, 1 week from tonight at midnight. And then it will close again until the next meetup, which will be in August. So let's finish up with just something a little fun. I'd like 1 or 2 people who would like to do an impromptu speaking thing. And if you need to go, you can go, that's fine. But just for fun, is there anybody out there that hasn't said anything tonight that would like to answer a question, a fun question I will ask you? You'll have 1 minute to respond. If I get any takers, like most people have already talked tonight. How about you, Meekin? Would you do it? Would you do it, Meekin? Am I calling you out? Yeah, come on up, Meekin. Let's see you. I haven't had a chance to see you for years now.
Hey, hi, Jim.
Yeah, perfect. How
How
are
are
you? It's great to see you.
You too.
So I'll have room for 1 more after this, but I won't force it. So if anybody wants to, raise your hand and you'll be next. So Meekin, I'm so glad that you came out tonight. I've always loved your energy. You're fabulous, and it's so great to reconnect with you in this community. So here's your question, and you can take a minute or a minute and a half to just give us your answer. So we've gone through a very interesting time in human history. If you had to tell me one thing you've learned the most about yourself in the last 2.5 years, what is the thing you've learned the most about yourself in the last 2.5 years?
You know what? I would have to say, I've learned that I hold a lot of anxiety and I worry a lot. But when it comes to talking to other people and I'm really good at making other people feel good. And I'm really good at knowing what to say and how to make others feel safe and feel secure and feel important. But the very person that I have trouble getting to that level with is myself. And I learned over the 2 years that I hold a lot of stress. I can tell other people what to do, but I can't relay it back to myself. So it's been a learning experience, learning to go within and talk to myself. And over the 2 years of just carrying this heavy load of what's happening with my job, where we're gonna go, my whole life, I've learned that I can go in within myself and talk to myself and calm myself and have a conversation. But it's not just with myself, it's my spirit, it's my soul, it's my connection that I have, the faith that I hold within myself that didn't come out before, but it comes out when I'm under this much stress that I'm able to tell myself, let's go take a walk and let's think and let's have a conversation. And that conversation with myself is with God. It's with the spiritual being that holds my faith. And I've actually feel like I'm gathering a strength that I didn't have before. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know where it's going to lead, but I'm excited, and everything seems to be crashing. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm at peace. But to get to this point, I had to go through a lot. And with my health, with everything. But I'm back here because I know I have a story to tell. I don't quite know what it is, but Jim, thank you.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I put it out there in the universe, and the next thing I know, I'm getting an email from you. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I think we can all learn a lot from you about about speaking from the heart and being vulnerable, because I called you out and you brought you up on stage without even you raising your hand, and you just came up and just knocked it out of the park. So thank you. All right, so I think we're going to call it a night. It's 8:30. I like to keep things on time. I will definitely stick around for a few minutes afterwards if anybody has any questions for me, because we don't really have time for a formal Q&A. But let me just say thank you again to Regina for taking care of everything behind the scenes. Thank you to all of the speakers who put their time, energy, and love into being a part of this first ever meeting. Thank you to everybody who showed up and listened, whether you got on screen and talked or just sat back and listened. You brought your energy, your love, your intentions here, and it was felt. And I can't tell you how excited I am about the prospects for the future for this. So thank you all. Have a lovely evening. God bless. Until next time. See you at the SpeakEasy Social Club in August. I'll send out the information to you via email. Take care. Bye-bye.